Today, there was a funeral service for my Uncle David in Ireland, who passed away last week. If I ever met him, it was as a baby less than a year old, and I don't recall speaking to him at all in my lifetime. I'm still trying to work out how I feel about that, and as this is the second funeral this week I've attended, even if virtually, it's still a very draining process. Objectively, it is fascinating to watch a culture completely different to mine go through the process of a funeral service. It was very nice to see the priest call to everyone's prayers his departed parents as well as my dad, and recognised that David's sister, my Aunt Mary, was joining them online from Australia. Now, the church I grew up with in Australia had services on a Sunday morning, and that was it. In Dublin, they have a service every day and about half a dozen separate services on Sunday. Over there, it certainly looks like the church has a greater presence in the community than it does here. As I said, this is the second funeral I've attended this week, and comparisons are inevitable. Now, at Dave's funeral, the priest was a Ukrainian chap who spoke English as a second language. While he certainly was clearly spoken, you could tell it wasn't his native language, as there wasn't as much natural inflection and pace and tone. Rather, he just said all his words almost in a monotone. Now, I've heard the same prayers spoken in church when I was a kid, and just the pacing and the timing of the words made the message much more impactful. There are other much bigger differences that I noticed. My Uncle Ken was the only member of the family to speak. Apart from initial reading, he confined his comments about Dave to a couple of personal recollections rather than giving us the story of David's life. That was something I was particularly interested in hearing, so it was a shame when it didn't unfold. The other funeral I attended earlier this week not only had the father, but also the brother and some close friends get up and share their thoughts and memories. Couple that with the slideshow of both her and the things important to her, and while it wasn't a life history, you still had a pretty good idea of who she was, what she liked, and the kind of life she lived. At Dad's funeral, I delivered his life story as I saw and understood it. My brothers shared some thoughts as well, and we had a slideshow of pictures that I had of him set to the music that he wanted played. Shout out to my mate Ed, who put that together at no notice for me, and he absolutely nailed it. Thank you, Ed. Uncle David's funeral did not have any of this. Now, maybe that's because the church culture there just doesn't do that sort of thing, which is their choice, of course. It's kind of a shame, though, because for I found that as a celebration of life, there'll always be things revealed in the pictures that people doing the celebrating may not have known about. Anyway, as I said, when you go to a bunch of funerals in a relatively short period of time, comparisons are inevitable. The funeral for my Uncle David was a sombre religious service, which is how they wanted it, I guess. Who knows? Maybe the proper celebrating will be later over a pint at the pub.